if you're Carlton and Essendon at the moment, you look at Damien Hardwick, Alistair Clarkson, and the third was
Ross Lyon.
Ross Lyon, thank you. All second-time coaches. If you're Essendon and Carlton at the moment, are you looking at a second-time coach, or are you looking for someone new, someone fresh?
I'm looking for someone new. I'm looking for the next Craig McRae or the next Damien Hardwick or the next Al Clarkson, because if you have a look since the last great teams, like Hawthorn, Geelong, Richmond, they're all first time. Chris Scott took over a very good team, but he was a first-time coach, a young coach. Al Clarkson, when he took over Hawthorn in 2004, I think it was, he was a young coach, untried. He'd done a little apprenticeship, but he was a young coach. Ditto for Damien Hardwick, and ditto Craig McRae, Adam Simpson, all of these recent premiership coaches. They were all first-time coaches. So I'd be going out and seeing if I can find the next one of those. That would be my
Mick
logic.
Moldhouse in 2010 would be the last.
Mick would be the last, I reckon.
And then Lee before
Lee before that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily work the second time around. Go and find the next young guy that's going to be the next great coach. That's what I would be looking at.
Can I just ask, Shawry, you always talk about the cattle and that you've got to have the cattle. We always focus on the coaches. With these three teams, as we mentioned them, the Suns, the Roos, the Saints, how much of that do you think is down to the actual players versus the coaches? I think the Suns have a great list. That's my view of the Suns.
Well, Lee Matthews says you've got to have the cattle.
That's what I mean.
And this
So
is
we
one of
always
the greatest
focus.
coaches of all time.
We always focus on the coaches. That's what we do in the media. But in terms of the players, the Saints have spent a lot of money bringing in some players that they hoped would lift their profile. I mean, that hasn't happened yet. The Roos have signed up a lot of they've got some great players, the Roos. They've signed a lot of long-term contracts to keep those players at North Melbourne.
They shouldn't be getting beaten by 100 points at this stage of their development.
Well, I think the Suns have a really strong list and the reigning Brownlow medalist. I mean, for me, I don't understand why they're not doing as well as they should be.
The Suns have got a big 3 weeks coming up. They've got Geelong, Hawthorn and Fremantle in the next 3 weeks. And so that's going to make or break the Suns.
I don't think they win any of that.
And if you look at the Suns, they've only beaten one team that is inside the top 10, and that is Geelong.
And it's St Kilda's a 6-1 against sides in the top 10 too. Yesterday was diabolical for North Melbourne. I don't care how young you are. 19
goals in a row.
Yeah, how young you are, and I had that game, and I was pretty scathing after it. You cannot accept that. I don't know how they're going to review it. I don't know what Clarko's going to do. But they failed the club yesterday. They've got a great history, North Melbourne. I played in those eras, and they were brilliant, but there would have been so many people so disappointed with that.
Who wants to kick off the Sunday roast?
Well, I'll have a go early. Chris Scott, they had a great game of football the other night against Adelaide. What a brilliant game in horrible conditions and what. But, in 1999, I finished my coaching career, and I coached in Adelaide. And I don't know whether this has changed or not, but Chris Scott got abused and said it was just untoward that it should ever happen. I had the same thing happen in 1999 in my last year of football.
That would have been at Football Park.
At Football Park. But is it still happening? And at Football Park, you used to come out of the box, go down one level of stairs, people coming up the stairs to get into their seats. You'd have one security guard. There was a bar, and outside the bar, everybody's loitering outside. You had to walk through them, then go down through the crowd to get on the thing. And let me tell you, there's a lot of feral supporters on every club. But over in Adelaide, at times, it can get a bit... He shouldn't have to go through this ever again. And it should have... No one known should you have to go through the public as a coach to get down to the ground and be heckled and be so close to these idiots that it becomes threatening. And he had every right to come out and have a dip at him.
Yeah, they shouldn't have to... Can you think of any other sport where coaches would be put in that position?
No. There should be a back. Didn't Rex used to call Football Park Moron Park?
Well, we go on to Adelaide today. Good on you, Shane. Yeah, well done, you idiot.
Won't be welcome.
Thank you very much.
Very good afternoon to our 5AA friends listening. North Melbourne, for the second year in a row, has sold 2 games to Western Australia for $2.5 million a year. Now, last year they split the games, a win and a loss. This year, well, obviously they got smashed by Fremantle down in Bunbury. Next week they will play West Coast at Optus Stadium in Perth. The Eagles, by the way, beat North Melbourne at Optus Stadium also earlier in the year. I want to put this question to you. Should AFL clubs be able to sell into another current market. So I get selling a game to Alice Springs or Darwin or Townsville where there isn't an AFL club, but selling into WA and into southwestern WA, to me, seems just a free kick to both Fremantle and West Coast, especially selling a game to West Coast at Optus Stadium.
Doesn't help equalisation,
well,
does it?
aren't you just virtually selling 4 premiership points to West Coast next week?
Well, that was a home game for Freo yesterday.
Correct.
The crowd, what would it be, 90%, do you think, Freo yesterday?
Yeah, nearly, yeah.
Probably 95%. Felt like just a purple haze around the ground. So,
But that result wouldn't have been in dispute, even if the game was at Marvel. You can't say...
Wouldn't have been the margin.
Possibly,
I think it
but
would
you
have been a
can't
lot
say the
closer.
result would have been different.
Potentially. They beat the Suns there a couple of weeks ago. I know the Suns aren't Freo, but
Other than
would have been a
Hawthorn,
lot closer.
other than Hawthorn, who aren't going to sell their games anymore because they're not going to be in Tasmania, I wouldn't think, where would they go, Hawthorn? But see, the more
That was different though, right? Because that felt like a home game for Hawthorn because they had so many
membership.
supporters.
No, but I'm saying in the future, who sells their games? Unsuccessful clubs sell
Richmond
their
have
games.
got one in
Now, Hawthorn
Hobart.
are successful. I wouldn't think they'd be looking at selling because they'd be making their money because they look like they're going to have a period of success at a height where they're going to have good crowds, get money through the gate. Will they need it like they did maybe however long before their last 3 premierships, whatever? So
Is Richmond unsuccessful, though? I mean, they're selling a game down to Hobart.
That's, yeah,
Well,
they are.
yeah, but
They've got a reason for that because of their redevelopment.
Yep.
At the Punt Road, and they're just looking to get some extra coin in for a couple of years.
But I don't think a club should be allowed. I would have thought the AFL should come in and say, no. If you want to sell a home game, we get it to make money. You sell it to regional Australia where there is an AFL football. You selling a game to Optus Stadium in Perth
to an
is 4
opponent.
points
Yep.
to West Coast.
So
and
you
even
think
down
the
in
Bunbury game's all right then?
I don't even really agree with the Bunbury game because where it is, Fremantle has to go 2 hours down the road. You're flying across the country. I don't think it is right to be able to do that.
and you're going to stay there for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It denies your supporters too a home game and to go and see you play.
It's a
Yeah,
fair,
but that's
it's a
not
fair
the
way.
motivation. They're
No,
not,
it's
they're
not.
not thinking about the supporters.
No,
when
it's
they do
money.
this.
At the end of the day, all the supporters care about is the 4 points and winning.
Yep.
They don't care about you getting a few extra bucks in because you're playing in Bunbury.
Good point.
They want the 4 points. I don't know any supporters that, would sacrifice 4 points over the money. Would that be fair?
No, I agree with you totally. Yep.
I mean, I was filthy when Richmond were playing home games up in Cairns and losing every year.
So then you used the Melbourne argument last week. They play GWS in Alice Springs. And again, that's not a home ground advantage to the Giants. But that game at the MCG, Melbourne wins. Well, you put thousands on it. They win at the MCG, given their form at that ground this year, as opposed to playing the Giants in Alice Springs. So does there need to become a tipping point for these clubs whereby us selling a game is worth 4 points? And is $2.5 million that tipping point for a club like North Melbourne?
I think the AFL would be happy that clubs are getting the money in, wouldn't they?
Yep.
No doubt.
So they're not having to prop them up.
Yep. 100%.
That's all it is. That's all it is. Money. But
generating their own revenue
I'm
then.
with Richo.
Yeah.
What price do you put on a win? What price do you put on?
$2.5 million?
What price? Well,
Or
no.
$1.25
Is it enough? That's probably not if
fans
it
wanna
means you're
win.
going to pay
All
fines.
fans want is you to get the 4 points.
That's fine, but it's not fans making this decision, isn't it? It's people who run the coffers. So it's a commercial thing. We know it's a commercial thing. I think there's a lot of opportunity. I know you mentioned, where should these games be sold? Should they be in a market where you can attract more AFL fans? We've brought this up on the show before. There would be a lot of people in regional Victoria, and I'm talking, near the border, Mildura way, who would love some games up there so they don't have to travel for 6 hours to get to Melbourne to watch someone play. There is opportunity, I think, even in a market like Victoria, to play games on a neutral ground. It only gets annoying to people when it feels like there's an advantage one way or the other. But that's why Gather Round's so good, because apart from Adelaide Oval, all those other grounds are not utilised within the AFL. All the teams are going and playing each other on these grounds, so no one's really got an obvious advantage. So I think there's a way to do it where you could incorporate the markets that are interested without the home ground advantage, because I agree with you on the Freo home ground advantage yesterday with North.
Absolutely.
Skewing way too far, but the football clubs want the money. So The AFL doesn't want to have to prop them up, as you said, Richo. Would you deny them the chance to make their own money where they can?
But at the end of the day, it's about winning and playing finals, and that's not helping North Melbourne do that.
So then does the AFL do something like the NFL has done? I know the NFL has done international. The NFL dictates that. The NFL on its own goes, we're going to do a game in Australia, we're going to do a game in Mexico.
Do they pay the clubs extra coin? Yeah.
So only the Jacksonville Jaguars actually take a game overseas that they own. So therefore, is it time for the AFL to go, you know what? We're going to dictate this. Every team in the competition is going to play one game in a home game at a foreign market. Sorry.
A regional market.
Sorry, when I say foreign,
regional,
I mean Australia.
Sorry. Sorry. I thought you were going international. I'm thinking, please, leave us alone.
One game. In regional. So you might have a game in Wangaratta, you might have a game in Townsville, a game in Darwin, a game in Alice, a game in Broome, and it's mandated by the AFL. Bring some extra money in, but every club is involved in one way.
Like those 2 games in Perth that North play in a row, other than it being normal fixtures, but they've already played, like you said, West Coast, they should be played in Bendigo, Mildura, somewhere along Newcastle, wherever. But I agree totally with
Canberra.
that because then you haven't got the problem of it being a home game for the opposition who you're playing against, and that is a big. Especially with 3 hours. Just one thing that Bruce Eva brought up yesterday, I thought it was brilliant. Having played in Alice Springs and the style of game, the day games in Alice Springs should be played more than what the night games in Darwin because of the type of footy you get because of the conditions. He hit it right on the head. I haven't seen many great... And listen, we've got to sell it to Darwin, but maybe you do it at a timing when it might be the best time of the year and it's during the day there too. But, just... Night games in Darwin to day games in Alice Springs, it's unbelievably wide.
It's the same with Tassie, though, isn't it? The night games in Tassie.
They're a disaster.
Yeah.
And thus the roof.
Yeah, that's why they've got to have it.